Great. Well, thank you so very much, Liz, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with your followers. Yeah. So a little bit of background on me. Before I was at IBM, I spent about 11 years at what used to be called Citigroup, which is now called Citi. I'm one of the biggest banks in the world. And I got recruited out of Citi over to a startup within IBM called Tivoli. So I joined IBM via a startup that had just been bought by IBM, and then I eventually merged into the IBM proper, or after 2 or 3 years, and I spent 18 years at IBM, doing various different things from corporate positions, learning about how things work within IBM from a corporate level, as well as doing account management roles and technical roles and this kind of thing. And my background, by the way, is in computer science. I'm a technical person as my education is, and so that's where I get most of my motivation comes from my technical side. Even though I think I do have a really good way of communicating with people and making people feel like I'm someone that they can trust and be a partner with. Yeah. So 18 years at IBM. I had a brief period of time at a company called Solace, which is a middleware company based out of Ottawa, Canada. I lived in New York City, but their company was based out of Ottawa. While I was there, I came across a gentleman who was running a company out of Frankfurt, Germany, called BCC Group. At that time, he was a pretty small outfit, primarily doing consulting work. And the space that we're in is around market data. If you're familiar with the price of IBM or the price of Apple or the price of Google, or you're familiar with the currency like the euro or these are all very important elements that traders need, that portfolio managers need, and they need it very fast, and they need it quickly to be able to make investment decisions. And so what we do and what we do as a company is we provide the ability for anybody to get access to market data quickly, easily via the cloud, if they want that, or via an on-prem solution. So Maurizio, when I met Maurizio in 2018, he was in the early days of putting together this new solution, which we call the One Platform. And it's the one platform for all different types of market data. So when I met him in 2018, he was really looking for someone to help him with business development. The product was built already. It had been tested with clients around the world, and it just needed some additional marketing, some additional business development and this kind of thing. And that is how I got into the role that I'm in today, which is the president of BCC Group. My primary responsibility is around the marketing and the sales part of the world. But as you know, my product is incredibly technical. So I spend a lot of my time having technical conversations as well with clients. And that's how I got to where I am today. And yeah, so BCC Group is a very interesting company with very interesting technology. And our clients range from hedge funds to asset managers to financial to investment banks. But we also have clients that are treasury departments of manufacturing companies like Cargill or one of these kinds of companies. We also focus our energy on government organizations that use market data, because everybody uses market data in one way or the other. You as an individual use market data. Every investment you have, every retirement account, 401k, whatever you might be investing in needs market data in order to make decisions about how to keep yourself ahead of the market and to be able to make sure your investments are growing and you're preparing for your retirement. And that's the most important thing here, right? So that's what we provide, that real time, microsecond speed data to clients so that they can make decisions on investments. Mm-hmm. Yep. So there are over 100, if not hundreds, of exchanges around the world, coming out of Indonesia, out of Singapore, out of Tokyo, out of the U.S. and Europe and South America. There are exchanges everywhere, and so all of those exchanges generally consolidate all of their data up to some primary aggregators. You may know some of the names. Bloomberg is one of them. London Stock Exchange is one of them. ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, is one of them. So what they do is the exchanges provide this data up to these consolidators, and then the consolidators then provide the data to me, and then I then deliver it to the client. Now, I don't sell data. I'm a technology company, so the data sale and the contract is done between the data provider, which is the exchange or the consolidator, like Bloomberg, and the client, who I call the data consumer. Right? I'm basically the technology that sits in the middle. I deploy my technology in the customer's environment, wherever they want it, the cloud or on-prem, and then it's theirs to do with what they want. And they all the data flow and the pricing and everything is handled directly with the data consumer and data provider. So we charge an annual subscription for the use of our platform. So every year we sell a baseline product to the clients that they can deploy, as I said, anywhere they want to deploy that. And then every year we do a true up with them, because what ends up happening is the first year they work with us, they have one data source or two data sources or three data sources, right? But in year 2 and 3 and 4, they're going to increase their data sources to others as well. So our price point goes up based on how many data sources they're using and how much data is flowing through the platform. So we basically, we charge a subscription every year. They pay us annually. Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if any tooling that's provided by any application, whether it's on your iPhone or on your Android or on your desktop, any tool that's provided by the data provider, which is Bloomberg or LSE, that data can run through my platform as well. And I even have in my portfolio a product that we call Wise, which is a data viewer. So you can actually view data flowing through the platform. And we have a data viewer that's available as an iPhone app, an Android app, as well as a desktop app as well. So, and the cool thing about that is that when we get to AI in a minute, is that not all data consumers need an expensive terminal that's provided by somebody, by a big player like a LSE or a FactSet or a Bloomberg. There are definite use cases for that, but there are use cases where clients are much lower tech, much a lesser requirement, and they might want a less expensive data viewer, we call it, right? So that's what we provide. For operational people, auditors, maybe some AI people, analytics people that don't need all the bells and whistles that come along. I mean, the Bloombergs and terminals and the FactSet workstations are incredibly capable and incredibly broad in their what they can do. We don't do any of that. We basically just provide data. Data flows, data flows, data flows, right? And it's not bells and whistles really. Yeah, it wouldn't be individuals. It could be a brokerage firm, a small brokerage firm, all the way up to like I said, hedge fund, up to a JP Morgan Chase or a Citi or a Morgan Stanley. Everybody uses market data in this space. This is how we go after and look for our clients. As we look around that space. Now, an individual wouldn't work with us. An individual would work with a Charles Schwab or something like that, right? But we would be a vendor of Charles Schwab, for instance. You would get your data from Charles Schwab, but we would be a vendor. We'd be providing the data to Charles Schwab. We don't today, by the way. They're not our client. But if you were an individual, that's the route you would go. Vanguard, for instance, Vanguard gets their data. Vanguard users actually get their data from a Vanguard viewer. They don't get it from the data provider directly. Okay. So I'd rather talk about how my customers are using it, right? Because I think that's much more important. I use it too, but to me, it's a much more elementary use case. But for my customers, their biggest challenge is they've got to analyze tons and tons of data and make investment decisions based on that data. And that's we're talking about financial reports, annual reports that come out, analyst letters, and so forth and so on. News that's coming in from, real time news coming in from MT Newswire and Dow Jones and this kind of thing. They've got pricing data coming in. They've got all these analyses of yield curves and this kind of thing. There's just so much data for them to look at. And so they've got a whole team of people that are analysts that sit and look at data and read and read and read and read and read. And so what's happening today, and I think we're still in the early days of this, but what's happening today is all of that is being gathered using AI and being scanned using AI, right? And then the analysts are then using that or developing algorithms that pull the data they need, and are able to then use that to say there's a sentiment here, a positive sentiment here, a negative sentiment there. There's a trend here, there's a trend there, right? And so they're saving tons and tons of time by leveraging AI to scan all these documents. And they can even interpret words that are being used and assess if it's positive or negative. If it's a positive or negative paragraph or article that's being written, right? They can use that to do that as well. I mean, a lot of that stuff is very touch and go. You're not quite sure whether it's going to be accurate or not. But and again, with everything with AI, you've got to make sure you double check everything. You're not going to take it verbatim. If it can do the broad brush review of everything for you, and then provide the portfolio manager with a summary, and that portfolio manager can do some checking, validating of it, or the analyst can do some validating of it before it goes to the portfolio manager, then you have a much faster decision that can be made. In fact, interestingly enough, I think we've been giving fast data to clients for decades, really, but they haven't been able to get fast news data. It's not just the news. It's not just this company recorded historically great earnings. It's what's behind the historically great earnings, right? Someone's got to read that article and assess why it was so good, right? Was it because they only made $2 last year and they made $4 this year? So it's 100% growth. Then that's not really that great. That's not really that great, right? So you've got to look at you've got to read the article, read the story, read the text to be able to assess whether that is a worthwhile investment or worthwhile to get out of an investment. So for the smaller firms out there that may be listening, we've had a lot of trouble because I'm a pretty small firm as well. We've had a lot of trouble getting people to engage with our webpage because we haven't had a lot of followers on our webpage and a lot of people engaging with us. So we've now started to leverage AI to help us build out our blog. What we like about the AI is that if I have an idea that I want to convey to my audience, to my potential clients, I can go into AI and I can ask it to go off and pull and look at my competitors and what they're doing, look at my industry and what they're doing, and if I want to do a particular analysis of hedge funds, I can get data on hedge funds specifically. If I want to do a particular analysis on auto manufacturers and the pension plans of auto manufacturers and how they might use market data, I can do that as well using AI, right? And then I can compare that to my webpage and what I'm promoting as a company, and I can ask it to give me a quick, one-page story about how the auto industry's pension funds integrates with the cloud or something and makes getting access to data more easy for the client, right? Using BCC's technology, right? And so that's made our life. Then if you can integrate into that all of the search engine optimizer requirements, and you can integrate into that all of the Google keywords and this kind of thing, then you get a lot. And we've seen an uptick, and we've been doing this for about 60 days now, and we've seen an uptick already in the number of people that are finding us. We even have recently gotten more hits from ChatGPT, which we never got before. So we're, people are going in and tell me about market data providers or market data platforms, and we're actually getting some data from ChatGPT. Not much yet, but it's better than it was. And so that's helped a lot. And then we're doing some other things as well. But AI has been if you asked me to write that article, Ford, cloud, market data, BCC Group, it would take me 2 months to do that because I don't have the time to do that, right? So, but I do have to review it. I do have to validate it. I do have to make sure that the stats are correct. I do have to make sure that what they're saying is true. But the other thing is it can give me ideas. I'm thinking about doing this article and da da da, and it actually can come up with ideas of things I should be thinking about or strategies I want to think about, or I can even say to it, give me a sales strategy to go after this particular market set, and it'll give me good ideas on how to do that. So it's got a lot of great. I'm a novice at this point. I'd say I'm probably a kindergartner or first grader at this point. You know what I mean? And I'm learning more and more about what it can do. I haven't even gotten into the graphics and all the things it can do, building charts and this kind of thing. But I will get there. But I think it's while I'm not so sure it's going to be a $1 trillion business for the people that do this, the open AIs and this kind of thing. I think for the individuals, much like the cloud is, right? It's going to turn out to be a huge time saver for the individuals and for the companies. Is it going to be $1 billion business? I just don't know. $1 trillion business, I just don't know. I think we're too early on. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hmm. Hmm. Exactly. I have a lot of faith in the American economy. I have a lot of faith in the American economy and the fact that, we've been innovating for 200 years. You know what I mean? And we've had jobs go away and new jobs get created. There's always going to be a moment of angst from graduates. I'm hearing recently a lot of the MBAs coming out are having trouble finding jobs today. I don't think it's because of AI reasons, but I think there's just some challenges. But I do think that we will get through this, and we will the jobs will the job will shift from one task to another task, right? And I always use this metaphor, but when I bought my house in New Jersey, I was so happy to have a lawn service because the lawn service allowed me to plant flowers. Because if I mowed the lawn, I would never feel like planting a flower. You know what I mean? Or trimming a shrub or edging the curb. I would never do that because I'd be so exhausted after mowing my acre of lawn that I would. So I'm happy to have someone else take care of that so that I can focus on the nicer things, the things that really make what I do special. And that's what I think is great about AI is that these people will find positions doing much more effective things that would be much more beneficial to our economy and to our companies because they're not spending their time just reading. You know what I mean? They're spending their time reading is important, don't get me wrong, but they should be able to get the data to them, validate it, and then come up with a much greater result, a much better result because they're spending their time focusing on things that are making the adding additional value. You know, I think that one thing that I really like about what I'm doing now, and as I said, I mentioned a lot, I spend a lot of time at Citi and at IBM, and then I went to this smaller firm called Solace, which is not so small anymore, but it was small when I started there. And as the companies got smaller and smaller, I began to realize how important it was to have an entrepreneurial way of thinking. I think it's really important that no matter whether you work for a big firm and you're just doing your own job and you're looking for ways to innovate there, or whether you're starting a company on your own, you need to be thinking about how you can do things differently, how you can be an agent of change. So the entrepreneurial mindset is not limited to people that start their own business. It's every job you do, everything you're doing, Liz, everything you're doing in what you're doing with these podcasts is all you're trying to think of new ways to do things differently than everybody else has done it before, much like AI is forcing us to do, right? And I mentioned this when we talked earlier, but I wrote a book called "Turning Great Ideas into Great Companies," which is available on Amazon. And it's basically a 100-page book that talks about how you go about taking a great idea and turning it into a great company, a company that could flourish and be successful, a company that could be bought by another entity, or a company that could go IPO eventually and then become on the stock market. But the point is that you've got to constantly be reinventing yourself. You've got to constantly be looking at the product you want to create. How do you make it better? The product you've created, how do you sell it? How do you market it? How do you make the customers happy? There's key quadrants that you have to focus on. And I think that no matter whether your job is working for yourself or working for a big company, if you're not focused on building great products, making sure the customers are aware of it via marketing and sales, and making sure customers stay happy, you're not going to be successful. You will not be successful. And so those are entrepreneurial thoughts, but they're also people that are working at big companies as well actually have the same mindset, in my view. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me and inviting me. I appreciate it. Have a good day.